The wind cut sideways across Iron Creek the moment Kevin stepped out of the SUV. The cold felt sharp enough to slice through his coat, but he barely reacted. His phone was pressed to his ear, his voice calm as he discussed production metrics and safety audits. Around him, workers hurried through the yard with their heads down, shoulders tight from the cold, and from something heavier. Fatigue, maybe even defeat. Kevin didn't notice. Not yet. A small movement near the fence finally pulled his attention away. A little girl was standing on her toes, trying to reach a scarf tangled in the wire. The wind kept snatching it away from her fingers. Her thin gloves didn't help. She tried again. Failed again. Without thinking, Kevin walked over. "Hold on," he said, reaching up. One steady pull, and the scarf came free. He handed it down to her. She took it with both hands, staring at him longer than any stranger should. Her breath puffed in small clouds, and for a moment she seemed to forget the cold entirely. "You," her voice was tiny, nearly carried away by the wind. "You look just like my dad." Kevin froze. Something in the way she said it, quiet, honest, certain, cut straight into him. "Your dad?" he asked. She nodded. "Mom said he's been gone a long time. He died." The words hit him harder than the cold ever could. He opened his mouth to speak, but a factory alarm blared across the yard. The girl startled, clutching a lunchbox tightly. "I have to take food to my mom," she said quickly. "If I'm late, she gets in trouble." Then she ran, small boots kicking up snow, scarf trailing behind her, the alarm still echoing overhead. Kevin watched her disappear into the loading corridor. His phone was still in his hand, the executive on the other end asking if he was still there. Kevin ended the call without a word. He should have walked toward the VIP entrance. His assistant was waiting. The plant manager was waiting. His schedule was tight. But instead, Kevin followed where the little girl had run, drawn by a pull in his chest he hadn't felt in years. Inside, the building's heat barely pushed against the draft sneaking through every door. Machinery clattered in loud, uneven rhythms. Workers moved fast, avoiding eye contact, working like they were racing a clock no one could beat. Kevin moved through them unnoticed. No one expected the man at the top to be walking their floor. He turned a corner and stopped. The girl, Lily, stood beside a woman wearing a hairnet and gloves. The woman looked exhausted, trying desperately to hide it. She took the lunchbox, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "Lily, you shouldn't be here," she whispered urgently. "Go before." A heavy voice cut through the machines. "Sarah." A bulky, red-faced supervisor approached. Stone. The way the workers shrank upon seeing him said everything. "What did I say about personal business during shifts?" he snapped. Sarah moved in front of Lily, shielding her. Stone kicked the lunchbox. Food scattered across the floor. Something hot flashed inside Kevin. Stone didn't notice him standing in the shadows. "You think rules don't apply to you?" Stone snarled. "You think being a single mother gives you special treatment?" Lily flinched. Sarah's jaw tightened, but she stayed silent. Not because she accepted the humiliation, but because speaking up meant risking the one thing she couldn't afford to lose, her job. Kevin's hands curled into fists, nails digging into his palm. And then everything clicked. Lily's face. Sarah's voice. The years he had buried under work, illness, distance, fear. Sarah, the woman he once loved. Lily, the daughter he had never seen grow up. And here they were being mistreated in the factory he owned. The truth crashed over him like ice water. He thought leaving had protected them. Instead, it had abandoned them. Sarah gathered Lily, whispering for her to go home after school. Lily nodded, glancing at the spilled food, swallowing hard, trying not to cry. Kevin felt his chest tighten painfully. For the first time in 7 years, Kevin Pierce felt fear. Not for himself, but for them. Fear of what his choices had done. Fear of what he had to face next. He stepped back into the corridor, breath shaking. Nothing about his life would be the same after this. Kevin didn't remember walking back to the SUV until the door shut and the factory noise faded. The heater hummed, but he still felt cold, the kind that settled inside the chest, the kind guilt created. Drive, his assistant asked.
No.
Stay here. He dialed his legal team. I need a full audit. Transfers to Sarah Pierce 7 years ago. Every document. Every signature. And check the lawyer who handled it. All of his accounts. 8 minutes later. Sir, your attorney falsified the reports. The funds never reached her. Kevin closed his eyes. 7 years. 7 years believing he left them enough to heal, to start over. 7 years they struggled alone. He hung up before the lawyer could continue. That afternoon, he returned to Iron Creek, not as a polished executive, but as an owner who had finally seen the truth. Stone was still barking orders when Kevin stepped onto the floor. Stone, Kevin called. The supervisor turned. His annoyance vanished instantly. Mr. Pierce, I didn't know. You're done here. Stone blinked. Sir? You're fired. Effective immediately. Gasps echoed across the factory. In 15 years, no one had ever seen the CEO do anything like this. Kevin didn't wait for Stone's excuses. Security escorted him out. Changes rolled out within the hour. Heaters restored. Hazard pay approved. Wages increased across the division, no delays. A long-term employee support fund established. But the file Kevin wrote himself was for Sarah. A grant. Immediate release. No media. No conditions. He stared at her name for a long time before signing, not as a CEO, but as a man who finally saw what his absence had cost. Sarah received the letter the next morning. She read it once.
Twice.
Suspicion tightened her expression. Mom, what is it? Lily asked. Sarah folded the letter. It's nothing we need, she said softly. To her, sudden kindness meant danger. She returned the grant. No special treatment, she told HR. I don't want money I didn't earn. From the conference room above, Kevin watched her leave the office. She looked thinner, more exhausted. Her steps careful, as if life itself had learned to knock her down. Money wasn't enough. Power wasn't enough. He had given her everything, except his presence. For days, he watched from afar. Sarah walking home in the snow. Lily waiting after school. Their small routines, holding hands, sharing quiet laughter. Every time they disappeared into the distance, something inside Kevin tightened. He had imagined them safe. Instead, he found survival. And he was responsible for it. 3 days later, weather alerts exploded across town. A historic bomb cyclone. Shut down all outdoor operations, Kevin ordered. Prepare emergency shelters. At noon, Lily's school announced early dismissal. Kevin saw the alert while reviewing storm logistics and froze. If Sarah was working overtime again, Lily would walk home alone, in a storm that was already turning lethal. By 2 p.m., the storm slammed into Iron Creek. Snow swallowed the streets, wind howled like a living thing. At 2:29 p.m., the school called the factory. Is Sarah Pierce there? Lily left an hour ago. She's not home yet. Sarah went pale. She walked. Her voice cracked. She never walks alone in storms. Sarah, stay inside, a manager said. It's too dangerous. But she was already running. A mother's instinct didn't wait for permission. Kevin was in his office when a security feed flickered, static, then a tiny figure stumbling through the whiteout. A child. Small. Moving the wrong direction. His heart stopped. Lily. Kevin didn't think, he didn't plan. He grabbed his keys and bolted. The storm slammed into him the moment he stepped outside, a wall of ice and wind, but he pushed forward, heart pounding in his throat. Hold on, he whispered into the storm. Just hold on for me. Somewhere out there, in a world turned white, his daughter was fighting the cold alone. And this time, he wasn't going to be too late. Snow swallowed everything. By the time Kevin reached the main road, the SUV could barely move. The wind hammered the windshield, shaking the entire vehicle. Wipers scraped uselessly across a frozen sheet of glass. Then, something inside his chest squeezed tight. A tiny shape flickered between two violent gusts of snow. A small blur, moving the wrong direction, barely visible through the white. He leaned forward. Lily. She was walking toward the frozen lake at the edge of town, the most dangerous place in a whiteout. Kevin slammed the brakes. The SUV skidded, fishtailing before grinding to a stop. He threw the door open. The wind punched the warmth out of him instantly, tearing at his coat. Lily. His voice vanished in the storm. He pushed forward, boots sinking deep into snowdrifts. The world was nothing but wind and white and the thunder of his own heartbeat. Then he saw her, collapsed near a tree, her scarf half buried, her little hands curled inside her sleeves. Kevin dropped to his knees. Her lips were pale. Her eyes fluttered open, then closed again.
No.
No, stay with me, he whispered. He wrapped his coat around her small body and pulled her against his chest. Her cheek was icy against his collarbone. This was his daughter. His blood. 7 missing years. And she was slipping away in his arms. I've got you, he murmured, voice breaking. I'm here now. I'm here. He lifted her, shielding her from the wind with his own body. The cold clawed at him, draining his strength, but he didn't care. A faint shout cut through the storm. Lily.
Sarah.
She stumbled into view, barely able to keep her balance, screaming her daughter's name until her voice cracked. Kevin turned toward her. Sarah froze. Her breath hitched. Her daughter, safe, alive, was in the arms of the man she once loved. The man she thought she'd lost forever. Kevin, her voice was thin, almost swallowed by the storm. Snow clung to his eyelashes, but those eyes, she would know them anywhere. It's me, he said. No excuses. No delays. The truth tore out of him. I never meant to disappear. I thought I was dying. Sarah staggered closer. What? The cancer. The surgery. All of it. His voice trembled. I didn't want you to watch me fade. I didn't want our daughter growing up waiting for me to die. The storm howled between them like a witness. Sarah stared at the scar on his neck where the wind had pushed his collar aside. Her fingers shook as she reached out and touched it. Proof he wasn't lying. How could you carry this alone, she whispered. The anger she'd held for 7 years melted into something heavier.
Grief.
Pain for the lost years. Hurt for a truth she never knew. I thought I was protecting you, Kevin said. But all I did was leave you to face everything alone. Snow stung their faces. Lily barely stirred in Kevin's arms, wrapped in his coat, her breathing shallow. We need shelter, Sarah said, panic rising again. But the storm was too strong. They couldn't make it far. The wind shoved them sideways. Visibility fell to nothing. Kevin crouched behind a tree, pulling Sarah close so their bodies created a tight circle around Lily. His back blocked the wind. Sarah wrapped her arms around their daughter from the other side. For the first time in 7 years, they held their child together. No past. No blame. Just survival and love. Rescue lights pierced the storm minutes later, minutes that felt like an eternity. Kevin's emergency request had gone through just before his phone died. The rescue team reached them, pulling them into a heated truck, wrapping Lily in thermal blankets. Sarah held Lily's hand against her cheek, whispering through tears. Kevin kept an arm around both of them, silent, shaking. This time he wasn't letting go. At the hospital, warmth returned slowly. Lily opened her eyes first. She looked at her mother, then at Kevin. You're warm, she said softly, like in the picture. Sarah's breath caught. Kevin's throat tightened until he could barely speak. He brushed a strand of hair from Lily's forehead. I'm here, he whispered. I'm not going anywhere again. Sarah watched him, really watched him, for the first time since he vanished. Hours later, with Lily asleep between them, Kevin slid a folder across the hospital table. This is everything, he said quietly. Proof the lawyer stole the money. The account I rebuilt for her. Charges filed. No secrets. No more shadows. Sarah placed her fingertips on the folder. Her voice was steady, though tired. You should have told me the truth. I know. He lowered his eyes. And I'll spend every year I have left making up for the years I stole. He stood, expecting her to push him away. But she looked up. Kevin.
He stopped.
The storm's over. Not forgiveness. Not a promise. But a door opened, just wide enough for the light to enter. His shoulders trembled. "May I stay?" he asked softly. Sarah glanced at their sleeping daughter. "For her," she said quietly. "And for us stay." Morning broke over Iron Creek with slow golden light. Snow still covered the town, but the worst had passed. Inside the hospital room, warmth finally settled around three people who had once been torn apart. Lily woke first, nestled between her parents. Sarah took her hand. Kevin took the other. Outside the window, sunlight hit the snow, scattering it into a soft glow, as if the world itself was giving them permission to begin again. Not as the family they once were, but as the family they could become.